So obviously, a few days ago, Tom Brady retired, and there's all kinds of stories and everything about him. And so I was curious, what was the retirement that hit you hardest? I don't know if it's the Romo poem or anything else.
Oh my gosh.
This one is kind of easy for me because I forgot we were doing this segment. As soon as you said it, I remember getting told by my dad in the car after basketball practice that Magic Johnson has HIV and is retiring, and I was bawling.
I was too.
And I hate the Lakers. Respected him as a player, just like I respect Kobe and Shaq as players. I hated them on the Lakers, but I respect them. That one to me, when I was in middle school, when I was in junior high, 7th, 8th grade, that one hurt the most. And not even a fan of the Lakers, but I just remember, I thought he was going to die, right? I thought because of Arthur Ashe, because of what we knew about HIV at the time, I'm like, oh my God, he's retiring and he's dying within the next year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I remember getting out of school, getting in the car and hearing it, and I was like, what is happening? And then that's when you get kind of introduced to all these, even more so than where you thought. I was like, he's going to die? Like, that's all I thought. But I think the one that really hit me, like, watching all the ceremony and everything that went into it and having, like, sports tears definitely was Dirt. Like, the way that they did. I'll give Cuban credit, man. Maybe Mike, he spent every last dime he had making sure that
that's
Sean
where all the
Kemp
money went.
And all those guys.
That's why he doesn't have any money.
Scottie Pippen.
He flew in Larry Bird.
Yeah, all those guys were there. Barkley's there. Like, he spent all the money he had to make sure that those guys were there for that. And that ceremony was great. You know, the whole part of it. And I'm just tearing up the whole time I'm watching it. And I mean, I grew up on Dirt. That was, I go back to high school when I was watching this guy shoot, and I was like, what is this style of basketball? It's amazing. So that one definitely, that's the local one that really gets me every time. Otherwise, it's Rocky Marciano, you know?
The boxer?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right.
That was before I'm genuinely intrigued by him. Like, then you're going to say Lou Gehrig or
Lou Gehrig's emotional farewell was really tough on all of us.
I'm not familiar with Rocky Marciano's retirement, I have to admit.
Remember when John Wooden trimmed the net one more time, Kevin?
I do.
Do you?
But I remember it in terms of I've seen the video, not in terms of like I remember where I was that day or anything like that. Like if somebody brings up President Kennedy, I'm like, that's awful.
Speaking of presidents.
No! Wait, and hopefully till after 2.
Of the National Basketball Association?
When people are like, wasn't that such a sad day? I'm like, how old do you think I am? I was like, I do not recall that. Or you know what? Although I want to point out before I go to Broadus, not that if you were alive during that time, it means you're old. I want to make that very clear.
I want to add one other thing. Now I have a hard time trusting retirement, like the speeches and everything. Because of, like, you know, Witten retired, and then, you know, Romo never turned in his paperwork. Mike still has never turned his paperwork in.
Still not retired.
He's pitching this season.
Is that why you have that jacket on, just in case?
Yep.
Sometimes people in our industry retire and then come back. Like, it's just, I can't trust retirement anymore. So sometimes it doesn't, I don't let it get to me the way. When Dirks was, we all knew that was final, right? Like, that was, we understood, we heard the pain he was going through just to get on the court. So that was one of those where I was like, yeah, that dude's never coming back to play.
You know who we should blame for this? Michael Jordan. It's his fault.
It is. Yeah, MJ. He screwed it all up for me.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Does that rule him out then? Because I remember the first retirement being like super emotional, but then does him coming back negate all of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like the one that got me, and it happened very, very early in my football career, the second year I was in the league, Sterling Sharp, when he went, because we had something really going there in Green Bay. We got Reggie White, you know, we were starting to draft a little bit better. The team, you know, Favre was coming along pretty well, and in 1994, I mean, we lose Sterling because of, you know, the narrowing of the spine and all that, and his, you know, and they just couldn't play anymore. But when that right there, because the first couple of years, he was like, everybody in the stadium knew the ball was coming to him, and he still made plays.
Couldn't stop it.
Yeah. I mean, he was Cooper Kupp of the early 90s is who he was.
Were you shocked as a kid when Roger Staubach retired?
No.
That name is on here multiple times.
I really wasn't, because I knew that he had taken such a beating, and then the concussions and stuff like that. It wasn't, because I was at the last game that he ever played at Texas Stadium in '79, and I remember thinking, wow, this could be it, with all that was kind of, you were starting to hear things about it, not like you hear today with concussions and stuff, but it was one of those, I probably figured he was going to probably move on, but not to the point when we lost Sharp, because I felt like Sharp was about to have a Hall of Fame career. I really, really did. And so it's unfortunate that didn't materialize.
The one that I didn't get, I didn't get to embrace that retirement, was Tony Dorsett, because of free agency, because he goes to Denver and finishes his career there. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed more connected to that, because he was my hero growing up. That was the dude.
Man, I hated that. I hated. I mean, I to watch, and I know this goes way back. Johnny Unitas finished his career with the San Diego Chargers. Joe Namath finished his career with the Los Angeles Rams. It just never was the same, with those. When you watch those, even Emmitt Smith played for the Arizona Cardinals. That was tough.
So the ones that jumped to my mind fit what you were just saying, brought us, and then Corey, what you brought up is, I wanted to say Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky, because those are two of my all-time favorite players, but Maddox went to 3 or 4 other teams. Gretzky played for 4 other teams, and by the time they retired, you were like, yeah, that's probably for the best, because I think mine is Joe Montana. I know he went to the Chiefs, but he did well with the Chiefs. They were the
Got him in
AFC
the playoffs.
they're in the AFC Championship game. I remember, if we would have lost to San Francisco, I'd 1,000,000% would have rooted for the Chiefs and be like, Joe Montana is going to crush y'all into the ground.
Who did he replace whenever he went to the Chiefs, by the way?
I don't remember.
The same guy he replaced when he went to San Francisco.
I don't remember that person either.
Steve DeBerg!
Yep, Steve DeBerg. Drafted by the Cowboys.
I knew who it
replaced by
was.
Joe Montana twice.
I'm not talking about him anymore until we book him on the show.
But aren't you talking about him right now?
Also this week, Tom Brady retired, and I know that meant a lot to you, because he was able to accomplish what Joe Montana couldn't. When Joe Montana went
pretending to be great,
San Francisco to Kansas City, he gets blown out by the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship game. But when Tom Brady moved to Tampa Bay,
it's hard living your life, honestly. I get it.
He ends up winning the whole Super Bowl and riding the boat with the trophy.
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
I'll tell you the one, Mike, you asked me about, the one you were surprised with Staubach. I was surprised with Barry Sanders retired.
Barry Sanders is on here from the A17.
Detroit does that to people.
Yeah,
huh?
Calvin too.
Exactly, yeah.
They said it's working with Calvin. They're working their way back.
Are they finally giving his money back?
I think so.
But yeah, that's the Barry Sanders one, was when you're we were sitting there and what? Why is he retiring,
Yeah.
I just gave him a blue grade, He's one of the best backs in the league.
It didn't hurt me, but I was shocked when Andrew Luck called it quits.
Mm-hmm. That was a beating. That was a beating he took,
And why did that happen, Corey?
He had
to go off to the Civil War.
He did not have to go to the Civil War.
No, he had to go off to the Civil War.
It wasn't Steve DeBerg.
One of the great Twitter accounts of all time.
See?
General Ambrose Luck.
For the 682, Ray Lewis, when he retired. From the 214, this one is interesting because I guess I didn't think about this in the same sphere, but different people can mean a lot to different folks. Is Luke Kuechly retiring?
This was one of the ones that came to me.
Yeah.
There was a 3-pack of players that retired nearly around the same time.
Yeah.
And it's not hit me the hardest as emotionally, but hit me the hardest as what does this mean for the sport and the way it goes? Luke Kuechly, Patrick Willis.
Yes.
And I don't remember if you remember this name, Chris Borland from the Niners.
49ers.
Yeah, he retired at 24 years of age due to concussions, right?
Undersized,
the way that this it felt like at that time we were learning more about concussions and CTE, and then we have a guy leaving because of concussions, a guy leaving because his feet aren't getting healthy, and a guy leaving because his back consistently is getting hurt. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we might be in a place where this sport is really going to have to answer some questions, and we might have to change where it lands in our society.
And Patrick Willis is the example that I thought of. I'm glad you brought him up. He was All-Pro 5 times. He retired at 28? Yeah. Sometimes I think people don't appreciate how good he was because then he just disappeared.
How about Travis Frederick?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Great. That was shocking to
Yeah,
me.
I mean, you're thinking like, but he never could get back to the level that he once was.
I remember that. I'm sure you remember as well. We were at
The owner's box.
Yes. And we were doing a Rangers hit, and we were trying, like, with no disrespect meant to Jared, we were trying to rush him off the phone because it was like...
That's how all conversations go with Jared.
No, I'm not saying that
It
at
does
all.
take a long time
I'm
for
not
Jared to finish
saying
an
that at
answer
all.
to a question.
It's just like Travis Frederick went to social media to announce the disease and that he was retiring, and we're just like, and people are like, how come we're not talking about Travis Frederick right now? And like, I literally didn't know the news for 2 minutes because we're in the midst of another conversation. Like, okay, let's like try to hustle this along so we can talk about this huge story.
And I think that night we got Mark Schlereth on. Like that night,
Yes.
we had him on immediately to talk about what he went through when he experienced that too. But I think that Stephen Weatherford was dead on, man, when he said it takes Jared a long time to get through an answer.
That was them. You know that was them.
I heard that audio. His name was Steve and Weatherford.
Stephen Weatherford.
Well, you think
and
they were
Joe
just
Flower
lie?
Mound. I tell you, I heard the conversation. It was something about catcher's interference. He poorly he answered the question very poorly.
I agree with Steve. Sometimes you go and talk for a while. That was so rude.
It's such a fun bit.
We
though.
figured that one out in a car on the way back to
I thought it was
Oxnard.
I thought it was hilarious. What about I know you talked about Sharp, the Reggie White retirement, because I know you love him.
I love Reggie, and that was when you kind of understood it was getting near the end for him. He was slowing down. Sterling, the end wasn't near for Sterling.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. We were going the right direction. I would have loved for Sterling Sharp to have been able to play in that Super Bowl.
I absolutely. I have some potential good news for some people here because like John Elway also came up. Somebody said Serena Williams. The good news, I know it's not gonna be like full time, is Serena Williams is already like, hey, you never know. Like I might play a tournament sooner rather than later.
Is kind of Tiger Woods in this thing, or is he retired, or what is he?
Yeah, he's in this weird nebulous place.
He's in kind of like retired but not retired. I'm playing in majors kind of guy.
Yeah, which I mean, I get it. Like Tiger Woods didn't need to be at the Waste Management Open, even though I know that's a fun tournament. Is he can be like, you know what? I'll wait for the U.S. Open.
Play the ones that I want to play.
Yes, exactly.
Was
kind of like Nick Kyrgios in tennis.
It is interesting. Those sports are kind of like that. I feel like if certain players want to play like that, they can. You can't do that in like football, baseball. You can't do that in team sports. Just pick when you. I guess I don't know. Maybe some of the football players are. Sue was like, I'll wait till middle of the season to decide what team I want to play on. So did Ty.
This one is an interesting combination, and it was somebody we were talking about before the show this morning, Reggie. John Elway, Sterling Sharp, and Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali's was really sad because they put him in, I think it's the Larry Holmes fight that 100% should not have happened. And then you just had to like step in and you're like, hey man, like we can't do this anymore because this is making me really, really sad.
Prince Fielder? Is that one? I guess I don't really connect to that one, but that was sad that dude's career. I think when dudes' careers get cut short like that, definitely does have a bigger impact because you're like, he doesn't need to yet. You know, he still should be out there fighting.
And then Cal Ripken Jr., Bo Jackson, Mariano Rivera. And those are all kind of different because like Mariano Rivera and maybe to a certain extent Cal Ripken Jr. like, I've seen your greatness. You have the right to go out however you want. And then Bo Jackson, obviously, injury changed the trajectory of what he could have been.
It's also hurt me that Mark Cuban retired from wanting to win championships.
There it is. I knew it couldn't wait too long.
That's a tough one.
That is...
the entrepreneur got his dream, got his goal, and has moved on to other things.
He did. We got to make this interview happen. And I swear to you, if you're up for the challenge or you really want to get into it, I'll just turn my mic off and be like, hey, it's Mark Cuban, everybody. And then I'll let Mike take it away.
What's the coolest way to retire, though? What's the coolest retirement speech you've seen? Because the Jared Allen, like, riding
on the
off
horse
into the sunset was pretty cool. Like, I thought that was kind of... I appreciated that. Rather than, hey, call a press conference and let me sit down and talk to everybody.
This is one thing. And
I think it's Antonio Brown's. That was the best way to retire. I'm taking everything off and walking off.
I'm just done.
Kind of very much like slap shot when the guy was skating around.
He's,
what's he doing? It's crazy.
This is one thing where I think combat sports really do it right, is I've seen multiple after a fight, win or lose, and they'll just start unlacing their gloves.
And you know them?
Yeah, and they put them in the middle of the ring, and it can mean a lot. It really can.
That's a classy way to do it.
And again, I know this might not really count, and he came back, but when The Undertaker retired at WrestleMania 33, you could see grown-ups openly weeping. Thank you, Taker became the #1 trend on social media. I thought it was magical.
Did this man just say wrestle?
That's right. And I know some people will be like, no, we said sports, not your nonsense. I get it. I do.
I still challenge him anytime he wants to. He can come try it out.
I mean, I would love that.
Me and Taker, anytime. You ready, buddy?
Just like when you said you could take Ryan Bader down, the UFC fighter.
And I didn't want to break his wrist, so I didn't twist it that day. Mm-hmm. He was just off of a wrist injury. You told me. You were like, hey, don't hurt him.
Yeah, it was just the threatening way in which you were like, hey, don't start with me. And I thought, this guy, I think this is a terrible idea.
I go to shake his hand, Broadus, and he puts me into a double Nelson immediately. He's like, hey, a reverse double Nelson or something like that.
Yeah, no, you got it.
And I had the opportunity to take that wrist and just snap it in half, but I didn't want to. He was off an injury and had a fight. So
I got at least one person with me from the 903. Thank you for mentioning The Undertaker. I wanted to mention it, but I thought that y'all would make fun of me.
Correct.
Now, okay, that's fair.
Boy, that's really a bright listener.
That is fair. I want.